Naruto, 10 times power beat intelligence. Shinobi battles can be won in many different ways, and sometimes pure power is the way to go. In the Naruto universe, there is a frequent trope that intelligence is an equal match to power. Though heroes are usually the ones with the upper hand, even villains have turned battles in their favor by planning meticulously. However, there are many instances where regardless of how intricately a battle has been planned out to ensure one's victory, it cannot substitute for sheer unbridled power. By identifying fights where one character simply overwhelmed another without regard to the machinations they may have been devising, we can better comprehend the merits of unparalleled strength. 10. Madara defeated the Kage regardless of their teamwork. The 5 Kage put aside their differences to fight on Naruto's behalf and stand against the infamous Madara Uchiha, synergizing their unique abilities. They attempted to bring him down regardless of his many advantages in jutsu, using strategies such as having Inoki ride on the Raikage and use his particle style. However, this tactic proved insufficient. Despite their best efforts, Madara flagrantly overwhelmed them, having been amused long enough by the novelty of their attacks. Ultimately, even the best tactician couldn't have mended the gap in their power. 9. Shikamaru's shadow possession wasn't particularly effective against Taiyuya. Taiyuya had the ability to summon and control 3 ogres from a flute she was able to play, considering the nature of their battlefield atop separate tree branches. Shikamaru had an extremely difficult time defeating her regardless of the elaborate planning he employed to guarantee her demise. Fortunately, Temari intervened on his behalf, using her powerful wind fan to decimate their adversary and the monsters under her command. Ironically, this proved that the only way to overcome Taiyuya's show of brute force was with brute force from the heroes themselves. 8. The 4th Raikage didn't struggle against Sasuke's team or hesitate against his Amaterasu. Though he had come to kill Danzo, Sasuke was prepared for his battle with the 4th Raikage. In addition to utilizing his teammates to his advantage, which he discovered weren't a match for his opponent, he also strategically utilized his Amaterasu just as he did against Killer Bee. However, this did not belay the Cloud Leader's wrath. Regardless of what limbs he'd have to sacrifice, he was fully prepared to crush Sasuke's skull and would have if Gaara didn't stop him. Sasuke retreated from the summit shortly after. 7. Obito defeated Konan with the Izanagi regardless of her preparations. After the fall of Pain, Konan took careful precautions to ensure that when she fought Obito, she would kill him. The Kunoichi prepared 10 minutes of consecutive paper bomb explosions so that he would exhaust his Kamui and be forced to become corporeal. What she didn't anticipate was the raw, unbridled power of the Sharingan. By sacrificing an eye that he was going to remove in favor of the Rinnegan anyway, Obito rewrote reality to avoid damage, took Konan by surprise, and skewered her. 6. Might Guy defeated Kisame regardless of his terrain advantages. Kisame carefully lured Might Guy to their final fighting location so that he'd have an advantage, though he was able to create his own water when necessary. The ocean he came across greatly facilitated his jutsu beyond its ordinary limits. Unfortunately for him, it would not provide enough of a difference to swing the fight in his favor. By opening the 7th gate and using the Daytime Tiger technique, Might Guy was able to overwhelm the Akatsuki member in a single hit. 5. Temari simply scattered all of Tenten's weapons, broke her aerial offensive. Tenten attempted to strategize against Temari, realizing the woman's skill with her giant fan. By leaping into the air, Tenten hoped to overwhelm her with a barrage of ninja tools. To her surprise, the gusts the Sand Kunoichi produced were not only capable of sweeping the attack away but also her along with it. Having been badly lacerated, the weapon master came plummeting to the ground, and made an excruciating impact with the metal brunt of Temari's closed weapon. 4. Sasuke overcame Killer Bee's 8 tails with his Amaterasu. Once Suigetsu used nearby water to expand his body and become a formidable adversary, Killer Bee was inclined to transform into the 8-tailed beast in order to keep the fight on even terms. Though his tactic was reasonably intelligent, Sasuke had one until that point untested resource he'd used to end the fight in his favor. By weaponizing the Amaterasu, the fallen Uchiha was able to turn Killer Bee's newly massive body against him, forcing him to retreat in a severed tentacle. His alleged kidnapping would garner Sasuke's worldwide infamy. 3. Sakan Yukon were able to overwhelm Kiba through their body-snatching jutsu. When Kiba fought Orochimaru's 2 henchmen, Sakan and Yukon, he had no idea of the sinister nature behind their power. One brother could possess the body of their opponent, slowly destroying their proteins from the inside until there was nothing left. Resourcefully, Kiba willingly stabbed himself to force the invader from his body. However, considering that he exacerbated his existing wounds by doing so, Sakan and Yukon were prepared to resume the fight and finish him off before Kenkuro's surprising intervention. 2. The Sound 4 dominated Shikamaru's team during their rematch. Though the initial Sasuke recovery team had no difficulty defeating their Sound 4 adversaries individually, they were impossible foes when working together. The prison that they had managed to seal the heroes inside had a pernicious effect against them and ensured that the villains were unbeatable. Regardless of Shikamaru's strategies and the merits of the comrades stuck with him, their Edo Tensei bodies continuously facilitated their rejuvenation. Fortunately, Naruto himself arrived at the battlefield, broke the barrier trapping them, and defeated the undead marauders inside before grievous harm could be visited on his friends. 1. Naruto overwhelmed Orochimaru by harnessing Kurama's chakra. When Naruto came face to face with Orochimaru, both parties had a vested interest in beating one another. The fledgling ninja sought to retrieve Sasuke, whereas his villainous counterpart was fixated on his tailed beast and the chakra it promised. Ultimately, Naruto couldn't control his own power. By partially transforming and using 4 of his 9 tails, he was able to overwhelm the fallen Sannin regardless of his more careful and shrewd approach to the battle. Unfortunately, Naruto still couldn't control himself after the villain departed and had to be forcibly restrained by Yamato.